All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our product release feature webinar on Smart List collections. My name is Lee Adkins. I'll be your host, along with Tiffany and Jake. Tiffany, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. It's afternoon here. I'm
Oh,
on
it
the
is
East
afternoon.
Coast. Yeah, but I am doing great today. Happy Friday.
Love it. Yes, happy Friday. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do at Follow Boss? I think people know, but it's
Sure.
good intel to have.
Sure. Yeah. So I have the privilege of being the realtor in residence for Follow Up Boss. And what I do in that position is I help to provide some translation service, if you will, between what real estate agents are looking for and what product is working on, and also work on putting together some training and content to bring these features and products to life for you guys.
Love it. That's great. Awesome. And also, Jake, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me today, Lee. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Why don't you tell us a little bit what you do about Follow Boss and maybe your role in this whole collections thing?
Yeah, sure thing. I'd love to. My name is Jake Mendez. I'm a principal product manager here at Follow Up Boss, and I am responsible for the core CRM product. So a lot of the work that you see across agent workflows, your smart lists, your tasks, your automations, action plans, calendar integration, all of those things. And yeah, my role here in this collections feature has been really working a lot with our customers, understanding some of the pain points of the old smart list user interface and some of the limitations and what they were trying to do with their team, and then working to build out this feature alongside those customers, testing it with them, and bringing it to market here for the masses so everyone can set up smart list collections and really organize the process for their team.
Love it. Perfect. What a great group of people to have on this session. We've got some great use cases here. So really excited to dive in. First, I just want to kind of run down our overall agenda. Also, this is being recorded, and we will send it out as soon as it is ready to go. For everyone who's registered, you can also always find all of these recordings on the Follow Up Boss YouTube page, and I'll drop a link to that in a minute as well. But today we're going to cover, what are smart list collections? What else is new and has changed? What's happening with that, and what additional things can you do? Jake will tell us more about why was this feature built, um, how you can get started using it. We'll also go into the product and show you some best practices. Tiffany's going to run down some collections that we've set up, and hopefully that'll give you some ideas on ways you can do things. We'll cover best practices and how you can implement with your team. And then, of course, we'll have Q&A at the end. You're welcome to drop questions into the Q&A anytime. Most likely we'll tackle them at the end unless we're right in that section. But you're always welcome to drop notes in chat and Q&A. But if you use the Q&A, make sure we don't miss anything, and we want to make sure that we tackle your questions here. So Jake, why don't you just tee us right off the bat? What are smart list collections?
Yeah, awesome. Definitely will, Lee. So what are smart list collections? Collections are a way to organize and structure your workflow inside Follow Up Boss by grouping your smart lists together. So it's really a way to take similar smart lists, if you have smart lists of similar priority, and organize them in a way so that you can say, I want to tackle this smart list first, this one second, this one third, because they are similar. It allows you to reduce clutter in the workspace, make lead follow up much easier. So you're able to quickly move between your smart lists and make those follow-ups one after another in that workflow that you set up for your team. We also have the ability to assign these collections to your team. So in addition to just being able to organize them and at the user level where you can set these up for yourself to make your workflow efficient, if you're an admin or an account owner, you can actually set these up for your team, structure their workflow, and assign it to them so it just automatically shows up in their account. They can follow the process that you set up, and they don't need to go in and configure anything at all. So we believe and have seen so far, like teams are going to be able to structure their workflows, set these up for their team, have agents follow the process that they want to implement, and really be much more efficient because of that.
So just to reiterate that, and I think most people know, but previously smart lists were shareable by each smart list. And so it wasn't necessarily congruent, and the order of them did not change within that, depending on when they were added or created or shared with that person. So just to add a little additional clarity to that, this is the way that they will be shared as is in the order that you want them within that collection. So pretty exciting feature. I know a lot of people have been asking about that. for a while. And Jake, I think you mentioned this, but we're going to tackle the power up side of if on the assignment.
Yeah, exactly. We could touch on that a little bit further here in the demo too. But yeah, one of the things that's really important with what you said there, Lee, is there were, previously you would set up these smart lists, and if you created a new smart list for your team, you could share it with them, but you have no way to bring it up to the top or make sure they even see it. And so this gives you the ability to assign that to your team to make sure it's where it's going to be visible and they're going to understand that it's there and that it's showing up. Um, I've talked to several different teams who previously said I would have to set up a Zoom with my entire team and say, let's go through our smart list together and organize them from top to bottom because we set up a new workflow or we set up a new process. So we've eliminated the need to do that with the assign collection feature here now.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Timmy.
Sorry, I wanted to interject really quick. It's also something that if you have a situation where a certain lead, a certain smart list needs extra attention, they've been ignored, people aren't getting to them on the list. You can also easily reorder those lists to send out to the collection. So it's just a quick and easy, okay, we're changing our priorities this week. We recently did this on our team because there were just some things that were not getting worked effectively. So I moved those lists around in the order of the assigned collections, and now it's like a miracle. Now those smart lists are being paid attention to, whereas before they were 5 or 6 down the list. So it can happen real time.
Yeah, that's a great point, Tiffany. And another thing I'll add to that too is, used to you only had the count of leads within that specific smart list. Now we're also aggregating those at the collection level. So if you have these 3 important smart lists, you can see the total of leads that you have on those smart lists across that entire group before you need to click into each one and understand what that is. It gives you a way to organize and understand priority of like where you should focus your time with those collection counts as well.
That's a great hierarchy. And obviously we're going to get into some examples and details, but that's really powerful in the sense of having ISA smart lists or QA smart lists, of having the aggregate total and then the individual total. So really, really a big fan of that. So, and that's also not all. What else is new with smart lists?
Yeah, exactly. There's so much more here with this change. So as you're probably aware, we've changed the user experience. We've changed the user interface. Smart lists used to be at the top. We've moved them to the left, and we'll talk a little bit about why we made that change. But with this redesign, what we've done is we've brought descriptions in smart lists out to the forefront. So used to these were hidden only in the manage page, and often were not visible. You will really be able to understand what to do on a smart list. So this gives you a surface to set up for your team to say, hey, this is what this smart list is. This is the process you should follow here. You can insert links. You can insert structured text. We'll show how that works as well. And really be able to give a lot more detail for your team about the specific smart list and the purpose for it. So that's one of the big changes that we've made. We've also brought this over to mobile as well. So now instead of having an enormous list of smart lists, if you have a lot of them and you're scrolling and trying to find which one you need on mobile, you can organize these collections, group them there, and just expand and get the list that you need and dive into that directly in the FUB app on iOS and Android as well. So we've got both of those things in place along with this redesign. And this new menu structure is also something that can get out of your way. So if you're on a smaller screen or you want a little bit more room within that smart list to understand and look at different columns within that smart list for those leads, you can collapse it and get it out of your way. And now you have a lot more screen real estate here while still having that description and that process sitting at the top.
Love that. I'm a big fan of this. Just for what it's worth, when this was out into the real world or just before, I saw a lot of ease of adoption. It was really interesting. People were kind of, now they're over here, but it was really interesting. I felt like a lot of people really were just like, oh, cool, they're over here now. Here we go. And I love it on mobile, the indentation, like it's really easy and kind of seamless on mobile too. So, yeah.
Yeah, we heard a lot from teams, that were piloting this feature. So, at Follow Up Boss, our product development process is always listening to our customers, understanding their pain points and problems, and working together to build solutions, and then testing with those teams and customers to understand, is this actually solving the problem in the best way? And when we piloted this experience across several different teams, like you mentioned, Lee, instant adoption, people were using it. They were setting up collections. It was intuitive. Their agents could just understand it. I remember when we turned it on for Tiffany's team initially, and I got a lot of quick feedback of just like, I didn't even have to really train my team on it. It's just, here's the new UI. And they're like, oh, this is great. I can start navigating between these lists.
Yeah, there's I kind of have a little bit of a joke. If it's something that I think is going to be really easy to adopt when a feature is turned on, I actually don't even tell them that it's going to happen just to see who the first person is that mentions it. And I mean, it was just, my Slack channel with my team was blowing up. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. I love this. This is so great. Have you guys logged into Follow Up Boss? And I mean, I think it was turned on at like 7 o'clock at night or something. And all the chatter around it, just so easy to use.
That's so great. I love that. I had the same experience. I did the exact, it's funny. I did the exact same thing. I'm like, just turn it on. We're not going to tell them. We'll see what happens. People are like, this is great. I love it. That's beautiful. So yeah, Jake, tell us a little bit about why you guys built this feature. And then we're going to shortly after that, get into some actual, demo and going through some examples.
Yeah, for sure. So there were a couple different reasons, and really some of the things that really resonated with us that we heard from our customers is, hey, we have a lot of smart lists. Our smart lists are getting messy. I have smart lists that I use as an admin that I don't necessarily want my team to use, and I have my team's smart list, and they're all cluttered, and I can't really organize them very well. And we saw a lot of teams that were doing this with, they would put numbers in front of their smart list, they would put emojis in front of their smart list, and a lot of these things to try to structure it for the team to say, hey, these are the ones you should focus on and are important. But there was no way for them to cascade that down to their team. And so what we heard is agents were spending a lot of time just trying to figure out, what do I do next? What is the next list that I need to go to? And as admins change the process, or set up different filters and created new smart lists and adapt their ways of working, there was no way to be able to cascade those changes down to their team. So it was like, as I mentioned before, jumping on a Zoom call and trying to get people to adopt this new process. And so that was a big pain point as well. The other thing is just from the amount of feedback that we've had over the years of the smart list page of customers saying, I really don't like that I can only fit X number of smart lists across the top. And if I wanted to give a description to say a bit more about what it is, now the list is longer and I can fit even fewer lists across the top. And as I go click into that more drop down, things get lost. My team isn't going down into that list. They're only working the smart list they see on the page. How do I get more lists that I want them to follow here on the page so they actually see them? And so we spent some design cycles really thinking through, what is the best way to do this? We explored how could we create, this concept around more lists showing up at the top, thinking similar to like a Google Chrome tab organization or something like that. And we tested that back and forth with a lot of teams. And that's where we really landed on this left side navigation was the easiest way to organize this. And it's actually a framework that we have in the app already. We have left side navigation in our inbox. We have left side navigation in our calendar. And so it's something that we think is not only useful in this use case, but is adaptable to other areas of the product so that we can create a uniform experience of within this, within this section of the product where I am, the left side is where I navigate to what I need to do. The right side is here where I'm taking action. So that was the impetus for doing this and working with our customers, over the past few months, building out this experience. I think we were able to really come to this solution that we've got a lot of great feedback on so far.
Excellent. Love that. It's really great. And you guys keep your questions coming, drop them in the chat. We'll get to the questions definitely soon. I'm trying to answer them best I can in the chat while also still paying attention. So how can one get started with these smart list collections? Well, for one, you've got them, but secondarily to that, Jake, what would you do if you opened up, and we're going to do this in a minute, but if you opened up a brand new fresh account and happened, like how do you do this at a high level?
Yeah, it's a great question. So what we've been telling teams, since we launched this feature is if you want to just work the list that you have today, similar to how you have been, there's no changes that you need to make. But now your lists are going on the left side, they're in the navigation, and you can collapse that navigation. I'll show you a little bit how that works here in a minute. You can move it out of your way, work your list top to bottom, the same way that you used to work them left to right, except now you don't need to click the more drop down, and you're going to have your descriptions of those lists surface directly at the top. So there really isn't a lot of change that you need to make there just to continue your workflow. But if you want to get the most out of this, it's really getting started with the manage button down in the bottom left of the new navigation menu. That's going to be where you can configure collections. So you can take similar smart lists that you may have already, using that example of like if I previously numbered my smart list 1 through 5, that's probably a good list or a good collection to form. Take those 5 lists and put them into a collection and give it a unique name. It's also a good time to go through and audit and understand what smart list do I have? What is my team using? What can I clean up? what is important and what's not. And we've heard that from a lot of teams that since launching this collection feature, I went through and organized my smart list. I deleted these 15 smart lists I didn't use. I updated detailed descriptions and links to my process for my team. And now I'm seeing my team go through and they're working these smart lists that they weren't seeing before, et cetera. So it's a really good time to kind of think about how you want to group things together. And we'll talk about some of the best practices for that later. But also to go through and audit what you do have and understand how you can make your team more efficient as well.
Yeah, we've got a couple of questions too around that audit. Number one, I'll drop some links in. We'll see where we get time-wise with this. If we can tackle a little bit of that in the session, we definitely will. Understood that's the thing. And Jake, I love your point about this is a great opportunity to revisit those. Are we using these? Did these make sense? Are these the right thing? This webinar is focused on the feature itself, but I'll, number one, pull some links and drop them in the chat relevant to that. But if we have time, we'll get a little more into that because it's definitely important. But I also want to keep us featured on the ability to use it. And trust me, we'll be having content and office hours and things coming out around some smart lists and how you can do this. So Jake, you want to grab the screen and go ahead and hop in and right into the product?
Yeah, sure thing. Let me get my screen up here and we'll walk you through setting up collections. So, okay, great. Can everyone see my screen here? Should be good to go. Awesome. Okay, great. So yeah, I'm going to walk you through just if you haven't set up any collections yet and you're just getting started and you have built out existing smart lists today, like where do you get started? What do you have today? So this should be the view that you see when you first log into your account since we've made this change. Your smart lists that were previously ordered from left to right across the top are now going to be top to bottom here on this left-hand side. We're calling the people sidebar. So this is very similar to what you had previously. You have your all people, which was previously an option for just clicking that to get you back to your list of all your contacts without your filters. So you can come here, create new smart lists, view everyone. That's an option. You can also navigate into your smart list, just clicking into them here, and you'll see that these counts tell me how many leads I have in each smart list, just like they did previously. And the way that you can also toggle between this sidebar being open and closed is at the top here. So there's a button. If I click this, it now will hide that people sidebar and it will appear on hover. So if I want to work this smart list, I have leads in here that I'm following up with, I can keep my focus here on doing that. And as I'm clearing out those follow-ups, as I'm reaching out to those customers and I'm moving on to my next smart list, I come over here and I click and I navigate to my new one. One thing you'll notice here as well is up here in the top, we now have that description that was previously not exposed sitting up here. So you can have this description front and center for your team or for yourself, reminding you what you need to do in the smart list, add a very detailed description of what it is and what you want to do there. You can edit this. There's a few different options that we have now. So you'll see there's rich text here. You can set bold, italic, underline. You can set an ordered list if you wanted to create bullet points or a numbered process of, hey, when you first get on this list, you should do A, B, C, etc. That's available here. And one of the other things that users have long asked for that we brought with this change as well is emoji support. So now you can select different emojis that you want for these smart lists by default. When you first set these up or when you first come into the new UI, you'll just see this filter icon. We use this filter icon as just the default, but when you set up an emoji, that will replace that filter icon. So it's a really great way to add some visual cues for yourself or for your team as to, hey, this is the list I need to go work and is important. We're also working on updating that emoji library, so you'll have a lot more options there as well. So this is the first view of what you see. So we're going to walk through and set up a collection. So in this scenario, I'm going to click the Manage button down here at the bottom of the People sidebar, and it's taking me to this new Manage page. And so what I'll see here is all my smart lists are organized top to bottom, just the way that they are here on the left in the People sidebar. And I can rearrange these. And if I rearrange these here, just like I would previously, you can see the order changes here on the left-hand side in the People sidebar. So that's the way that you can set these up for your team. The permissions of smart lists stayed the same, just how we had them before. You can click here to share with everyone. You can select specific agents. You can select teams. And all of those things stayed the same. And what's new here with this collections feature is now I can create a new collection. So let's call it test here. I can assign an emoji to this collection. And then I can choose which list I want. So we talked about earlier, like what's a good way to get started here? If you had previously numbered lists or you have lists that are hot, important, something that you need to take action on, take those lists and put them into a collection. So you can just select the checkbox here for all of those and save that collection. So you'll now see that there's this collection that appears here in the manage page, and it also appears here in the people sidebar. And so if I click that collection, it'll expand and it'll show me those lists that I just put inside of it. And I can collapse that and you'll see that it sums the count of each one of the leads inside of that list. So this is a really great way if you're setting up these collections with, let's say you have 10 lists and you want to organize it into 2 or 3 different collections that for different processes like nurture or active clients or something like that. You can see the count of follow-ups or actions that you need to go take in each side of one of those collections before you even jump into the list. You can just see them at the high level in that collection. So that's the overall collections feature. You can create as many collections as you want for your smart list in here. And as you add new collections, this list of available smart lists will get smaller. So you can't have a list that lives in multiple collections. It's only going to live inside of one. So you'll see as you organize your smart list that you have today, this list will get smaller and smaller. And by the time you organize all of it into collections, you will have a very clean setup with no additional smart lists. You can also leave it in this kind of mixed state where you have collections and then you have some smart lists that have not been organized into a collection as well. The process to edit a collection is really simple. Clicking over here in the ellipses, you can edit, you can come through and rename, you can choose which lists are inside of it, you can add a list to it. Kind of the same way that you're going about setting it up, you can make those changes here to do so. The feature that I also want to talk about a little bit here is this assigned collection. So assigned collections, first we'll talk about what it is and then we'll talk about how it works. Assigned collections lets you take a collection that you've built and assign it to your team or to an individual agent. And so when you do that, if you are an admin or account owner, you will be able to see any of the assigned collections that you've created or any other admins on your team have created and who they're assigned to, and you can all edit them. And it'll show them here in order in which you created and edit and have them ranked for your team. As an agent, that means that it will show up as an assigned collection. So in this case, I only have one built, so this is the only option for me. And if I click share with everyone here across my team, that means that anyone that I've shared that with now has access to this collection, and it'll automatically be pinned to the top of their people sidebar. So if you assign this to your team, this will show up. And this is what gives you the ability to say, I want to make sure that my team knows the process they need to follow, and they have access to the smart list that I've created. And if I make changes, those changes are going to cascade directly here under assigned collection. If you don't see this in your account, it could be for a couple of reasons. So the assigned collection feature is available for our pro and platform accounts, and there is a power up that you need to make sure is enabled in order to do this. So this assigned smart list collections power up needs to be toggled on. Once you toggle that on, you will see the option for the assigned collection. Assuming you've set up a collection. If you haven't set up one yet, you won't see that option until you build one. And that gives you the ability to control it for your team and really set up how this will work. As an agent on the team, you will be able to see this collection. You will be able to come here and look at these lists. You could actually change a filter temporarily, but you cannot edit these lists. So if an admin creates the list and assigns them, I could come in here as an agent and add one, but I couldn't update the list and save it. I'll get an error and it'll tell me you don't have permissions to do that when I try.
That's excellent. We had a few questions around that. I hate to jump in.
Sure.
But we had a couple of questions around that. I think people are pretty excited about that an agent can't inadvertently or vertently, if that's a word, change filters or do something funny that's going to then save or be different in their account. So just wanted to overemphasize that it is, and that was Thomas's question, which was really great. So if an admin sets that up, they're able to temporarily filter through that list, but it's not going to change anything in the system for them or anyone else.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the purpose. But we also didn't want to restrict it so that, maybe that's a really useful list and I want to make a filter change really quickly to check something. So you can still do that. And the other thing that you can do as an agent is if you're an agent, you won't be able to edit this, but you can copy those smart lists out. So if you were assigned a collection and you want to copy and make your own copy of it and change some filters, you are capable of doing that. We don't prevent you from doing that. I would
great.
say it's not best practices. You should work with your admin team on, like, if there's changes you think that need to happen to the smart list, work with them on and making sure that change happens for everyone. It would be the best way to go there, but you can still do those things.
That's great. And one last, go ahead, Tiffany.
Sorry, essentially that it's what you were addressing, but so basically, like, if they were to duplicate those lists, the smart lists, to make tweaks, to change the filter, to make their own smart list, where do those collections show up? Or are my collections as a team leader still going to be prioritized?
Yeah, it's a great question. So if you can copy those lists and it'll put them down here, agents can still create their own collection. So the way that this will work is if I come in here as an agent and I create my own collection and add a couple lists to it, that will still show up here in this left side under collections. So they will still have that, but those are not shared out across the team. Those are just at the user level. So it's just for that agent. They will show up, but any collections that have been assigned will always show up higher in the navigation over theirs. So as a team, when you assign that to your team, that will show up first. Anything they create will show up second. So it really makes sure that you can establish process for your team and that they see any changes that you make and the list that they need to work are directly there at the top.
And they know which ones are your prescriptive path for them versus kind of getting lost in the mix and the what did I create versus what did the team leader create when they do make those tweaks and save their own smart lists as well.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing I will call out is on mobile, we do have it work the same way. So your collection that you assign will still be at the top above any collections they create. We don't have it broken out there with the assigned collection just to save a little bit of space since it's a bit more limited there right now. So that is one little difference between web and mobile, but the collection you assign still sits at the top. Their collection can sit right underneath that as well.
That's great. The only other thing I was going to add super quick was I just wanted to reiterate that if you're pro or platform, the power up is not on by default. So if you're looking for assigned collections, you need to go to the right-hand menu, drop down to power ups, turn on the power up, and then you'll have the assignments. And to Jake's earlier point, you have to have a collection set up for that to do anything. You could turn it on, but you or even to turn it on, I believe. Also, we have one super relevant question to where we are, and honestly, I had the same question. So Allison asked about so the agents can't change the filters on the existing and shared collections, but she asked, and Jake, you're the perfect person for this. If you don't have the smart list in a collection, is it the old way? Can the agent change filters like that? Or is that only tied to being in a collection, or is that now a general feature for them to change filters?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it's only tied to this assigned collections feature. So the way things previously worked when you're sharing out smart lists still apply. Like if you share that out with someone, agents are able to go through it and make the changes to filters just like they could. Here is where we're locking it down. So when you assign that, they're not able to edit it. They still can copy that list if they want to copy it and then tweak that from there and make their own changes, but they're not going to be able to edit your lists. So if you have them in an assigned collection, think of it as only the account owner and the admins have access to change the filters that are there, update that list, and to make any changes in the order of that collection or the list within it as well.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Great clarity.
Awesome. Well, this is the overview of most of the features that we have here. I'm going to pass it back to you, Lee, and jump into the slides, and maybe we can talk a little bit about some of the best practices that we have here for collections and how we can really leverage those to get the most out of this new feature.
Absolutely. So yeah, let's dig into some best practices. Tiffany, you want to take this?
Yeah, absolutely. I know we've already touched on some of this stuff, and the getting the most out of your smart list collections is definitely thinking about how you want to organize your workflow and by a role or by a lead type. I know I've heard a lot of different ideas. Sometimes it could be by timeline. There's a lot of different ways that you can organize your workflow. Just an example, how we have it organized is between the leads that we need to follow up with, that are leads that we've already had a conversation with, we've spoken to, we're nurturing. The leads we need to follow up with versus prospecting, people we haven't talked to yet. And that way we can prioritize those different lists and also even replicate or duplicate some of those lists so they show up on both collections for these people that are prospecting and these people that are follow-up. keep everything really simple. Make sure that every collection has a purpose. You're not just throwing lists together just to have them together. You have a purpose there. And then use those smart list descriptions to include the relevant information. I'm going to show you in more detail just an idea about how powerful this can be. Assigning your collections, we just talked about that in pretty good detail. So using that assigned collections to be able to standardize your process. If you have a specific process that you want to use for seller leads, every single seller lead that has that meets the following filter, we say the following script to. That's a great reason to put something together into a smart list, into a collection, and then prioritize those leads. All right, you can roll to the next slide. So how can this help your team? Yeah, so we have really been talking about this. Cleaner, more organized smart list experience. Yes, I will tell you, Jake was talking about me when he said that, when this tool was turned on, that people were coming to him and saying, oh, I didn't even know I had some of these lists, or what they were doing, or the purpose. And I know we're not necessarily talking about the auditing process, but it was so powerful for me to be able to just see everything on one side, scroll down and look at something and be like, well, this list has 3,000 people in it. Clearly that's not a very smart list. What's going on here? And just going in and just to be able to see what's going on with things. It discovered a lot of things about my lists and organization that were just kind of bogging things down. Being able to do less searching for what is the best way to follow up with people and just spending more time with follow-up. More efficient processes are going to keep your agents in their system longer. Clearer workflows with descriptions. We're going to touch on that in a minute. I'm going to show you in real time. For team leaders, just having that control over the workflow, being able to change that workflow without having to communicate with everyone what you're doing, why you're doing, and making sure that they have implemented the changes that you wanted them to implement. Has anybody ever had that experience where you have a team meeting and you go through what the new process is, and then half of your team later on asks you what this new list is? Yeah, we've all experienced that. Yep,
Hey,
every
half's
single
pretty
time.
good. You're doing pretty good at half, actually.
Right. So this just, instead of having to waste everyone's time, you can just make those tweaks, make those changes. I didn't say anything to my team when I reorganized the order of some of our smart lists yesterday. I said nothing. I did go in this morning and I measured the success of the effort of what I did yesterday. And I was able to go in and see the effect that one change had, because we instruct our agents, start at the top and work your way to the bottom. One more thing about organization, and then I am going to jump in and show you some of those best practices. Think about when you're creating collections of leads, think about yourself as, if I only had 1 hour, if I only have 1 hour to get in and work in my CRM today, where would I start and where would I go next? And that's how you should order your smart list and how you should arrange your collections. Where would I start if I only have 1 hour to make the biggest impact? Start there and then go from there with those segments. All right. Should we show them what it looks like? Lee, you're muted.
I was just saying, yeah, let you drive.
All right, sounds good. All right, guys, I am going to jump right in here. All right, so this is a test account. So it's it's Lee's account. So it's just one idea on how to do things. We can talk about a lot of different ways to organize, but I did want to show you guys, again, same idea. When my mouse is not clicking for some reason. Okay. When Jake was driving earlier, so when you log into your account, you can go into all people just like before. These little carrots here collapse these lists. So these are all of the assigned collections and then the collections that you've created yourself. So you can see a very concise view of what you have going on without having to dig in very deep unless you want to, right? So we want to talk about best practices. There's lots of different ways to set up the collections, and it's really going to depend on what lead sources you have, what your operating procedures are for your team, and how you want to work your leads. But the thing that I want to point out here is the ability to add additional instruction in each of these lists. So if this is your prospecting list, and this is the order you want to work them in, you want to go through your new leads that just came in, and then your hot leads that you want to reach out to twice, every 2 weeks, your warm leads, or twice a week, sorry, your nurture leads, and then your recently active. One of the benefits of the new Smart List organization is this description piece. And so I want to show you how powerful this can be in real life. Unfortunately, this list doesn't actually have any people on it, but that is okay because we don't even need people on this list. So the new description at the top gives you more space, right? And if you hover over or click on this more, it'll pop out the entire description. So in this example, I added in, obviously the description of these are people that are active on your website or inquiring this week. And then I added in a script that you could use when you're talking to them. So that script can stay at the top of the screen while you click and drop everybody into a dialer. Your agent doesn't have to think about, how do I start the conversation with people that were recently active on my website? How many of you guys say, hey, I'm just calling to follow up, or I'm just calling to check in, right? How many of you guys cringe when you're like seeing the transcripts from your team and you're like, oh, well, they said the following up checking in thing again? Yeah. So give them that initial thing, because when they answer the phone, when the person answers their phone, they're like, I don't know what to say now. You can put that in the description, and that'll be so powerful. Lee, did you have something you wanted to add? I saw you unmuted.
And I can't help but add to that. Yeah, I love that so much. And I think especially with the recently active, right? If you've got intel from a Real Scout or a Ylopo or something like that, like, please. But this is what a great way to remind people, and I love the numbered list too. Number 1, check the history. Number 2, do this. Number 3, call them. Number 4, make a note.
Yeah. And another way that you can do that, if you want to use less script here, is with this link feature. And I am going to show you guys how to do this. So right now I'm just showing you what it would look like, but you can use this link feature. This is a link to the SOP. So if you want to have additional information, you can put it into a Google Doc, link it into the description. And this is one I created really fast today, but you can have this all put together in one place. So it's got the script there. Well, what happens if they don't answer the phone? Like, 1, I want you to always call first. If they don't answer the phone, then I want you to text them, but I want you to text them using templates from this specific template folder, right? And then it gives the screenshots of where they can find those templates. So if I'm going in here, and I'm just going to pick a different person. If I'm going in here and I need to find that, I can very easily just find, oh, there's my recently active templates. I'm going to pop that up and send that message, right? So they know where they're pulling things from, instead of just trying to scroll and figure out what to say or where to go next, or not do anything and just go hide under their bed because they don't know what to do. Yes, that happens too.
That was the most, thank goodness it was via Slack, because I probably would have hurt Jake's ears. I was like, you can put a link in there now? Like, watch this YouTube video with the script. You click on this doc with the SOP, do this. I mean, that is super, super powerful, and I just can't. And there was a question about this. I just want to make sure everybody saw it. Yes, you can bold, italicize, underline.
Yes, and I'm going to go in. Yes, I'm going to go in and show you that now, actually. So if we're on, whoops, sorry, guys. If we're looking at this list and we click the edit button to edit the smart list, it's going to pull this, it's going to pull up the description. And there's a lot more things that you can do in here. If you wanted to add the link, you just use the link button, insert the link. You can call it whatever you want. If I wanted to say, let's say YouTube training. And then just like any other program, add the link to the YouTube video there. They can click and watch that before they get started on calling through that particular list. This could be especially effective for certain types of leads where there's a unique way that you need to talk to them. One of the things that crosses my mind is cash offer leads. I don't know if you guys struggle with that in your business too, but cash offer leads, there's specific ways that you need to talk to them. And if you start out the conversation by talking about listing their house, they do not want to talk to you because that's not what they asked for. So those kinds of things, like I encourage, role play this dialogue before you jump on these calls, right? So what if you could have that link to the video, the link to the SOP, the scripting written out, all of those things, so they know exactly who they're calling on that list and what they need to say and why, or what areas they need to look at in the lead profile. But this is where you can add that description and change those things around. So what questions do we have? Did I forget to show anything in the
No, I think you tackled it great. Let's definitely dive into questions. Do you want to keep your screen shared and
Sure, I
questions
can.
and product? Beautiful. I don't think I need to show a slide that says Q&A, and we got a bunch of questions.
Actually, let's I'm going to stop share. I'm going to let Jake share, because Jake that might be better for
yeah,
him
if we
to
need
have
to
his
create,
pulled
we
up.
want to create another one or something to that effect, or show the duplication, all
Yeah.
that fun stuff. So beautiful. And Tyson, we got you. We always send the recording out as soon as it's ready to rock. Should be today, and it's always on the Follow Boss YouTube channel. So I'm just going to go in chronological order here. So we had a great question. This is when building smart lists for all the sales reps. Do you have one collection, for example, like active listing, active buyer, new lead, hot, nurture, qualify? Let's tackle that first part of the question first. I think this is really the whole concept here, right? The idea is to segment these into relevant, and we were just goofing off with these, but I think they're pretty decent examples. Here's your prospecting time. Here's your sphere and past client time. If you have ISAs, here's their segmented list, maybe for the same thing, new leads, prospecting time, digging in the pond. I think that's one of the biggest things of this, and I'd love for both of you guys to tack onto that.
Yeah, no, that's I think prospecting is definitely one of the most significant effects of collections. So being able to segment out your giant pools of leads that you have that are, currently just hanging out in ponds, and prioritize them into collections is definitely a better way to work. I like to think about the collections as collections or categories of how you would want to work through people, and priorities. So, and also a little bit around, and Jake, you can probably touch on this better, but also you have to think about permissions a little bit too. Like, what collections do you want certain people to have access to? So if it's, another way to think about things, if you have certain leads that only certain agents on your team gain access to, right? So you have lower or bottom of the funnel leads that only experienced agents get access to, then you might want to have, or you will want to have, a collection that's set up specifically for those leads, because you also want the agents that have access to those leads to prioritize calling them before calling everything else that every other agent is calling, right? So that would be an example of a segment or a collection that you would want to put together. I have another collection that's put together specifically for one agent on my team that serves a different market. So our team serves 2 MLSs, 2 distinct markets, and there's 2 of us in one area and 6 in the other. And so we've got a collection set up that's specifically for that area, that market, so that, we can customize to that. But those are just some examples that I would think of. Jake?
Yeah, Tiffany, I want to expand on one thing that you mentioned there too, around, setting up permissions, so that making sure, if you have more experienced agents, you have a subset of leads, and you only want them to have access to it. It's important to understand that when you assign a collection, even if that individual, let's say I have a list, for example, if you're looking at my screen, if I have a list that wasn't shared with everyone and I put it inside a collection that is shared with everyone, that list is now going to be updated to be shared with everyone that has access to that collection, and anyone, plus anyone else that, maybe didn't have that action, but was on the share permissions before. So if there are lists that you want to keep to a subset of your team, that should live within its own collection, and you should assign it to that subset of users. And, and you can set the order for how it shows up here for them as well. Like if you want that priority list or that priority collection to sit at the top and be the first lead that they work, like Tiffany mentioned, you can set that up. And when you have multiple assigned collections here, so let me just go ahead and show you really quick what I'm talking about. When you have multiple assigned collections here, you can set the order of these. This is drag and drop. So let's say in this example, this test 2 bucket, I'll change the share permissions here. So let's just say I've only shared it with this 757 crew team. In this case, the order in which these appear, if I'm an agent and that 757 team is part of this, it's shared with everyone, so they can see this collection and they can see this one. Right now, this would be in this order for them. It's in the number 2 position. If you move it up here, for the people that have access to both of these, they're going to see it in this order. But since the other team that you've assigned this to that, isn't that 757 team, doesn't have access to this, they won't even see this collection sit in their menu. They'll only see the one. So we basically take, this order and we follow that order if you have permission to access it. And all of those individual list permissions still apply outside of that. So if let's say you share this with, in this case, I've only shared this collection with that 757 team. But if I have this list that's shared with everyone, well, everyone can still access that list. It just won't be organized and put into an assigned collection for them.
So it'll show up in all of the other smart lists at the bottom instead of showing up in a collection.
Exactly. Yep. Great. Lee, yeah, what's the next?
Awesome.
Yeah, I feel like we're getting a lot of great questions.
Believe it or not, we have actually tackled all the questions at this current moment. And thank you guys for all the great
Wow.
I know you guys were rocking. A couple of them were typed answers. That's why I was muting myself. But yeah, you guys are rocking it. We love the great feedback. And as Jake mentioned, I want to reiterate, the team wants feedback on this. Like, this is born out of ideas and people saying, like, they're always in more. I don't know how to get to all these lists. The agents never click on more and get to these. The agents keep changing my smart list and theirs look different and they're out of order. So this is all based on your feedback. So just wanted to be clear that, number one, Follow Boss team is listening and they're on this session. So they're seeing all your lovely comments and praise and ideas. We love the ideas and seriously, keeping that coming. And I think, Jake, if you're sharing, do you want to just super quick, do you mind just showing real quick the question mark as well? So if people want to reach support, if people want to send a Loom, if people want to get into the Facebook group or search through the knowledge base, like there's a lot. I know I'm a broken record and we do this every time, but like there's an unbelievable amount of things that you can do in this little question mark inside your account.
Yeah, sure thing. So down here in the bottom right, we have this help icon inside your account. So if you ever need to get in contact with support, you can contact our support team. You can also record a video. So if you're experiencing, and these are super helpful for us. So if you're experiencing an issue, some kind of bug, or you don't know where to go next, record that video of what you're trying to do in the product and send that to us. That is super helpful. And we have a really great support team, that works super hard to make sure that our customers, get the support that they need. And if they don't have an answer, they'll contact us, product or engineering. And if we don't have a good answer, we'll build a solution that, can solve these problems. So, like Lee mentioned, get that feedback to us. Let us know, where we can improve, where we can be better, because that's going to make the product better for everyone. And so that's how, we really encourage you to reach out to support. If you have any questions on this, if you have general feedback around the changes that were made, or, hey, it would be really great if we also could do X, Y, Z. It's really great to hear those things and, understand how we can improve the product there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And we want to see what you're thinking about with collections and lists, like these best practices. I mean, we've got so many ideas already, but we want to see what you guys come up with. I mean, we have such an amazing community that we're just visionaries. So show us what you're doing, post it in the community, and show us how you're organizing your list or what you're planning on doing to organize your list. I'd love to just see more about what people are doing.
Love that. Tiffany, could you drop a link to I just hit Facebook to grab a link to the group and it's like, you must log in on this computer. So
yes,
if one of you can drop,
do that.
That'd be amazing. Because if you're not in the community, really, we love to see this. We love for you to answer questions. Tiffany and I and a bunch of other people are in there answering questions. Happy to, share videos and relevant information. So really, really love that. So awesome. And seriously, appreciate all you guys' great feedback. I think we do have one more question. Oh, yeah, Allison had asked about, I think somebody answered earlier, but want to tackle this as well, about multiple collections with the same list. Jake, you want to tackle that? I think I know the answer, but I think you know it better than me.
Yeah, sure. So we don't let you use the exact same list. You can duplicate the list and you could put it in there, but the exact same list, you would have to duplicate it. And the reason that we do that is we want it to be intentional if you want to do that. We don't want you to have collections with a bunch of the same list where it feels like, oh my God, there's so much I need to go focus on here. There's so many lists, when it's really just the same ones. unless you want that workflow. So you can't have the exact same list in there, but you could duplicate that list and put it into a different collection if you want.
So I can give you an example of when that would be a best practice to duplicate the list. So recently active is one that comes to mind all the time, right? So if you have recently active list and you have different segments for recently active, but your premium leads versus recently active, or your pond leads recently active in another location, that would be an example of why you might want to duplicate that list so that it can be added to multiple collections.
Cool. And part of Allison's question on that, yeah. So I think you could do either. You could duplicate the list, especially if it's slightly different, because if it's a time-based smart list and you're looking at end of the month, that would be something where you wouldn't want one list sitting with people who haven't been called in 3 days with other people who haven't been called in 3 days across separate, areas. But I also understand what you're saying. I think the segmentation, but to me, the segmentation is the collection. Like you would have maybe different end of month smart lists, or I mean, week 1, week 2, week 3 feels too complicated, but like just that idea, and similar to what we said before, are you prospecting? Are you calling past clients? Are you cold call? Like what is this, a farm? Like what are we doing? And I think that also puts us in the mindset, and again, why I love the description, we're doing one thing right now. We've got a very specific, I'm calling people who have been active on my website. I've got intel I can find to have a better conversation. There are merge codes I can use to send, hey, do you want to go see any of these? So I think those are all important things. But Allison, my gut would be maybe those are just different collections. I'm not sure exactly what filters you would want to have on that. But I think that filter kind of is that workflow, or that what am I doing now at this particular time of the week, day, or month.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Lee. And one other thing I wanted to call out here too, I don't think we touched on it. Across the product, we have a lot of places where we, not just the help icon to contact support, but where we also give you links to helpful articles. So right now, within the product, within Smart List, there's links here on the new Smart List changes. If you go into the Manage page, there's also information here on how collections work. If you click these chips, or how assigned collections work. Those currently take you out to those articles where you can have that. We're also working on videos with this update as well. So it'll walk you through, here's how to do this, kind of what we've talked about today. And those will be easily accessible right there in the product, just like we have in other places. So we didn't have those ready quite in time for this launch, but those are coming very soon. The articles are ready. So if you want to go in there now and see the help articles that walks you through how to do this, always recommend going into those resources. Reading through that, it's really helpful to get a good understanding. There's an article in there as well that talks about some best practices here and how you can organize these, similar to what we've talked about today. So would definitely recommend going through and taking a look at that to see how we're recommending you set these up as well.
Awesome. That's great. Super cool. Again, thank you guys so much for the feedback. Thank you guys all for watching and being on and diving into this new feature. It really has been super cool to see. I think, Tiffany, since we did intros with you first, let's let you give some words of encouragement, or what could one do if one wanted to get started straight away on this? And then Jake, we'll let you take us out.
I'm going to say start with one collection at a time. You don't have to overthink and reinvent every single wheel. Just think of one thing that'll make a difference in your business. Start with that one piece and then go from there. I still have a ton of smart lists that haven't been organized into a collection. I know I still have a bunch of duplicates, but I also know that I've got the most important things at the top of the screen for my agents every single day. So that is the start. Just do one thing at a time. That's my parting words.
Yeah, great words, Tiffany. I think that makes a ton of sense. Yeah, I would kind of want to echo the same thing. Like, this feature is built so that you can add the structure into what you're doing and that you can organize your workflow. Any of these new features can be daunting, like understanding how to utilize them, but just start small. Start with just making one collection and organizing your list a little bit and see if that helps your workflow. Check out those help articles, check out how we're recommending you can organize things, and use it as a time to really audit your process, audit what you have in place, audit your smart lists that are there. And as you're doing that, I think you'll come up with a lot of really great ways to improve your workflow. and ideas that we would love to hear. So, as you're setting these up and you say, oh, it'd be really great if we could do X or Y, like get that feedback to us. We'd love to hear that. We'd like to understand those things so that we can make the product even better.
Love it. Appreciate you guys. Jake, we love this. Like Tiffany and I both are like, this is the greatest thing ever. Descriptions.
I love smart. I love them. I love smart list collections. No.
It's very cool. Well, appreciate you guys so much. And we look forward to seeing you guys again soon. Have a great day.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Take care.
Bye, everybody.